This event will be videotaped, as we were waiting for, and will be uploaded to the website votejoco.com. And so from there, you'll be able to go to that, link to your various media sites, and be able to utilize however you want to, okay? We'll let you know when that occurs. Please feel free to share that with friends and family. At this time, I would like to begin introducing our candidates for our contested races. Representing Ward 4, the incumbent, we have Reuben Cozmyer. Representing the mayoral race, we have incumbent mayor, Mr. Pape. And then we have the mayoral challenge, Mr. Billy Croan. The format for today's event, candidates will have 2 minutes for opening remarks. Then we will proceed into questions where they'll have 1.5 minutes or a minute and a half for their responses. Then once we get to closing, they will have 2 minutes to wrap up and close. Each candidate will respond to the same question in an alternating fashion, going from one side to the table to the other. And we flip the coin in order to understand what the speaking order will be. So at this time, we'll hear from opening comments from Mr. Mayor Pape, please.
Thank you, Merriam. Hi, I'm Bob Pape, and I'm your mayor. I've lived in Merriam for 60 years, and I've served it for 5 decades. I started in 1976 as a volunteer firefighter, and excuse me, I got a particular call, and retired after 38 years as your paid fire chief and your fire marshal. I was elected as your Ward 4 council member twice, and once as your mayor. During that time frame, we have a new community center, a new library. We removed the old Kmart. We have the Merriam Grand Station in its place. Merriam Grand Marketplace is currently underway, which includes a Trader Joe grocery store, a restaurant, and apartments. The grocery store was the #1 thing that our residents have asked for, and we made it happen. Now we have 13 grants available, such as the exterior home grant, the driveway replacement, Black Party, and a free tree, or just a few of them. We also have a grant that will rebate Merriam's portion of your taxes if you meet certain income guidelines. In 2026, we will have a single trash hauler that will cut your bill in half. I have lowered the tax mill rate to a level that was lower than it was in 2023. I have a bachelor's degree in personnel administration and a master's degree in public administration. We've conducted surveys and sought out what you want in a community. We have responded, and that is why we have a 93% satisfaction rating. As your mayor, I bring education, dedication, and experience to the table. I hope for your vote on November 4th. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Pape. At this time, we'll hear from the mayoral challenger, Mr. Billy Croan.
Challenger, that's one word. My name is Billy Croan, and I'm going to be the next mayor of this beautiful city with your support between now and November 4th. I've been a volunteer in this city for nearly a decade. I've been involved watching council meetings for that time. I moved here in 2014. I served on our HOA board for 7 years and guided our HOA forward without raising dues once, and maintaining a high quality service and reducing restrictions on people. Freedom is a big thing to me, and I want our government to have less restrictions on businesses and people alike so that we can all live more freely in this beautiful city. I've served on the Parks Board in our city. I chaired that for several years. I served on the Comp Plan Committee. There was Downtown Merriam Committee, or the Irene B. French, I think, was the 5701 committee. There's been a bunch, more than I can just recite off the top of my head. But I'm really excited. I bring a lot of energy to this position. I know all the departments of our city. I know all the faces of our city, the folks that are sitting out there. And yeah, I'm excited, and we're gonna take some questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Croan. We'll now hear from the incumbent councilman, Mr. Cozmyer.
Hello, I'm Reuben Cozmyer. I'm currently one of the Ward 4 council members, and I was appointed late last year to fill council member Neal's vacancy. But I still have a long history of public service in Merriam. I was appointed to the Planning Commission by Mayor Sissom in 2017. I was reappointed by Mayor Pape, and am currently the only council member who has that experience. I was also on the Merriam Board of Structural Appeals, the Merriam Bikeways Committee, and then a joint committee between Merriam and Shawnee way back in 2015 and 2016. Beyond that, I've also served as a Johnson County election worker since 2021. In 2012, my wife and I were looking for a safe, convenient place to settle down and buy a home in, somewhere with good neighbors and a good sense of community. And we found all that in Merriam. Safe streets, friendly people, good schools, easy commutes. I know a lot of people find the Merriam motto a little hokey, but I like it and I think it fits really well. It's just right. In my day job, I work as a civil engineer in the water resources field, primarily doing flood studies for the FEMA flood insurance program. I've seen the positive impacts that having good flood data can provide for a community, and how communities can take action to minimize their flood risk. So I'm excited to have the opportunity to use my professional experience to help make a difference here in my own community.
much, Mr. Cozmyer. And going into question number one, we're going to start with you, Councilman Cozmyer. What do you believe is the most important skill or competency that distinguishes you from your opponent in this race?
So I don't know a whole lot about Rob's community service background. I know he has some experience with entrepreneurship, but I have a large background, as I mentioned, in public service in Merriam. I've worked with the Planning Commission since 2017, so nearly a decade. And in that time, Mayor Pape mentioned a lot of the great things that we've been able to put together. We helped put together the Merriam Grand Station, the marketplace across the street, bringing in the Trader Joe's, and then also just helping businesses do business. We relaxed the work from home licensure requirements as part of the city codes while I was on the Planning Commission. And then we also work with businesses who are trying to renovate or relocate here in Merriam.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Moving over to the mayoral race, Mr. Croan, the question goes to you first, with both you and Mayor Pape being very engaged in civil function. What distinguishes you most from Mr. Pape here, sir?
Sure. The first thing that comes to mind is government transparency and attendance. I go to all the subcommittee meetings of our beautiful city. I like to record them and share them with my neighbors. And in a lot of those, really in most of them as of late, the mayor's not present. I am, and I take notes, I pay attention, and I get things done. I make sure I file things on time, like my campaign finance reports. And I'm fastidious and detail-oriented. I'm an IT professional with 20 years. I am not one to get flustered, and I'm not one to get to run away from tough challenges. I'm often the guy they go to when nobody knows how to solve a problem. They got to find somebody who will own it and solve it. I'll take care of Merriam.
Thank you very much, Mr. Croan. Mr. Pape, same question to you. What distinguishes you most from
Well,
Mr. Croan?
I'd like to just clarify one thing, is that I appoint individuals to run those committees, and it's not my responsibility as the mayor to be on them and attend those meetings. But I think there's several things. One, obviously, I had 38 years in the fire service. I advanced through every rank in the fire service, all the way to fire chief, which is a leadership position in the whole department. I've also been past president of the Merriam Kiwanis Club, a service organization. I've been the chairman of my board at church. I've had leadership positions my entire life. But beyond that, I have a bachelor's degree in personnel administration, which is primarily what you do as a mayor. So you talk to people, and you work with your employees. And so that obviously has served me well. And I have a master's degree in public administration from KU. And that is actually how to run a city, is what my degree is actually in. And the fact that I've not only been doing this for 50 years, I think I have the experience, the education, and the dedication.
Awesome. Thank you, gentlemen, for identifying those things that you feel are differentiators. Now, one thing we can look at is you're all very passionate about the city of Merriam, so we'll progress into some of those items at this time. So, managing infrastructure is generally a very challenging prospect to look at, especially when there's significant aging involved. Mayor Pape, first question is to you. What is your position regarding the future state of downtown Merriam, sir?
Well, that's a good question. We've been working on downtown Merriam for a very long time, as you probably know. Back in the early 90s, we even had a water rescue team because we had a flooding problem down there. And that is actually in a floodplain. And that's the number one reason why we're dealing with all the issues down there, is the fact that we need to get it out of that floodplain. There are things that the businesses can't do. They can't add on to their business. They can't renovate it other than just cosmetic. We've been asked to do something about the floodplain by the downtown business that are currently down there. The thing's hampering us, though, we have a $25 million grant. We're working with the Corps of Engineers. We've been working on this for several years. That has ballooned from a $40 million project to well over $100 million, maybe as high as $150 million for levees and walls and the things that they're currently proposing. They don't have all the information, and we won't have that until probably January of next year. Because of that, we have actually hired HNTB to look at alternatives to that project down there. Is there anything else that can be done for what the Corps is currently proposing? They've said that there are. One of the things that they suggested is raising of the buildings and adding 3 to 5 feet of dirt. But there's a lot of other things. We don't have all the answers, and we don't have all to even make a decision. What I propose is that once we get all those things, probably sometime next year, is that I will form a committee of both downtown businesses and Merriam residents to determine the future of downtown.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pape, appreciate that. Mr. Croan, same question to you. What is your position regarding the future state of downtown Merriam, sir?
Downtown Merriam is a historic gem. It's a tragedy that we lost the R&B French Center during 2020 when our council moved forward with its demolition when the public couldn't come and talk about it. I have been present, like I said, at a lot of meetings. I've met with business owners downtown. I'm endorsed by the Downtown Merriam Partnership, and I'm proud to have their support. We need to work with those businesses. They own the land, they own the buildings. Yes, citizens' input is just as critical. We could have had that committee a year ago. Why has that not happened? We need to work with the businesses and stay out of their way to let them prosper. Now, on also the flooding issue, because that got brought up. Yesterday it was mentioned that by ordinance, those businesses are not allowed to make certain changes on their buildings because of this floodplain. Those ordinances are controlled by government. I'm running to be part of that government, and I'd like to reduce those ordinances to allow those businesses to prosper and to maintain their buildings.
Thank you very much, Mr. Croan. Mr. Cozmyer.
Yeah, so as I mentioned in my background, my day job is flood studies for the FEMA flood insurance program. I have a lot of experience. I have 15 years of experience working with communities to see what they can do to look at their flood hazard and how to mitigate it. I'm a licensed civil engineer and a certified floodplain manager. And I know a lot about this stuff. There's a lot of misinformation and confusion about the National Flood Insurance Program. As a city of Merriam, we can't just change the ordinance to allow people to build in the floodplain. That's part of the U.S. Code that's authorized by the Bigger Waters Act in 2012 that administers the NFIP. If Merriam would withdraw from that or make significant changes, it'd have a lot of negative consequences to the ability of people in Merriam to purchase flood insurance, the receipt of federal disaster dollars if there is a flood-related disaster in Merriam. And so it's important to have somebody on council who understands these issues and understands, the big picture of how these problems can be solved, instead of just, get reaction, why don't we just do something? Because there are a lot of downstream consequences to that.
Certainly. So I appreciate each one of your responses on this, so thank you. What I'd like to do is kind of pivot really quick. We talked about a lot of engagement committees, talking to people. What I would like to know then is, with a lot of activity that's currently happening within the city, what is your strategy to ensure high levels of community engagement with stakeholders, both residential and commercial? Mr. Cozmyer, I'll start with you, sir.
Yeah, so Merriam puts out a survey of residents, at least, every few years, and Merriam residents are reportedly very satisfied or satisfied on just about every single issue. Quality of life, value that we get for our taxes, housing, public safety, maintenance, communication, and leadership. So I think, right now, Merriam is doing a really solid job making sure that everyone who lives in Merriam and works in Merriam is happy with what's going on. We're working with developers to redevelop some underutilized areas, the Shawnee Mission Parkway and Antioch corridor. And I think going forward, right, Merriam we're pretty small. The only possible development is new development, and so we need to continue to work with property owners who want to do something different with their property but don't necessarily know what to do with it. Okay. And connect them with the right people, the right developers, the right ideas.
Awesome. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate that. Mr. Croan, you'd be the first to answer in your category. Once again, I'll ask the question, with a lot of activity that's occurring in Merriam, what is your strategy to ensure a high level of community engagement with stakeholders, both residential and commercial?
Is it specific to downtown or citywide?
Citywide, sir.
Citywide. Listening, being present. Again, being part of the downtown partnership has gotten me in contact with a lot of businesses. I will remain in contact with them, and I will expand that to include others, and I will listen to their needs in our city. Let's see. Having more of our city committee meetings open, and having all of the meetings recorded and published for people to watch. Not everyone can come to things, even like today. It's great that this is going to be online for the public, but I want to have all of our all of the city council meetings and the subcommittee meetings published. It was stated yesterday that all the city council meetings were. That is not the case. There are work sessions today that are not published by the city. I know because I show up and I produce recordings of those to share with my neighbors. We need more openness and more transparency in our city, and that's exactly what you're going to get with me as mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Croan. Mayor Pape, being the incumbent, can you share what a high level of community engagement is for you with both the residents as well as the business owners as well?
Well, as Mr. Cozmyer said, every 3 years, ETC conducts a survey. So we're asking residents, how do you like the city? What do you think we're doing right? What do you think we need to work on? I think that's the number one way, is talking to them, finding out. And also, we've actually sent out individual surveys directly to them on high level topics that we want to know. Everybody gets a chance to respond. We also, I like to engage them by going to the neighborhood block parties. One of the things that we've instituted in Merriam is getting to know your neighbor, being able to talk to them. I always like to share what's going on in Merriam, find out what their concerns are. I mean, one of the things that we shared was Sherwood Forest at a block party. They said, we would really like to have a sidewalk over to the park, to the Stringway Park, so that we can get over there without having to go out on Championship Parkway. I had never thought of that. That came from the residents, and it was a great idea. We made that happen, because engaging with those individuals and finding out what's important to them makes it easier for our jobs and makes it safer for them in a lot of cases. We use Instagram, we use Facebook to contact people, and we try to keep everybody informed. We have an e-Merriam. We actually send out a highlight to every resident, every business in the city itself of what's going on. We try to keep people engaged, and I think that's important. Obviously, I would continue to do that.
Awesome. Yeah, I would say that's, I think you all commented it's very important that, both residents and businesses feel like that there's advocacy at the government level that's occurring for them. So once again, kudos to all of you for having high engagement strategy. So thank you for that. As I move on to the next question, and this starts off with you, Mayor Pape, and I'm going to play back a few questions ago. You were very proud and talked about a lot of development that's going on within the city of Merriam. So what I would like to know is can you please share with us when's an appropriate opportunity for the city to utilize a CID, a community improvement district, or tax incremental funding tools from their economic toolbox to be able to increase those businesses where there's opportunity for not just the businesses, but also for the residents within the city?
Good question. I think a perfect example of what you're asking is the fact that we had a Kmart that sat vacant for over 10 years. We had developer come in there and look at that property and propose things, or at least see whether, but once they delved into the site itself, they couldn't afford to develop in Merriam. We had to go in there and offer a TIF district, turn it into a TIF district, and offer an incentive to help get that developed. That was one of the number one things when I ran, was people wanted that Kmart to go away. It was an eyesore and a blight, and we made that happen. They also wanted a grocery store. Without a TIF district and now currently a CID, we could not have that Trader Joe's grocery store coming into Merriam. Those are the kind of things that you have to engage and you have to do for this economic development. One of the things my opponent doesn't agree with. I also I'm proud to say that we would not have all of those I-35 car dealerships, which we get 52% of our revenue comes in from all those car dealerships, if we had not had a TIF district. That's what puts those things in place. That's what allows them to build, and that's what keeps them in the city. That's what brings them to our city. Yes, I support TIF and I support the CIDs because economic development is our number one tool to keep our property taxes down.
Thank you very much, Mayor Pape. Mr. Croan, same question to you. When do you feel is appropriate opportunity to use CIDs or TIF districts in the city's economic development toolbox, sir?
In a word, sparingly, if ever. TIF, CID, IRB, those are all kind of dirty words to me. They should be a method of last resort. And, one of the criteria is called the but-for clause. TIF cannot legally be used but for, that's the only way to develop it. And yet we saw TIF used to develop the Chipotle, for example. That could have been a local restaurant. And I had a conversation with the developer at a council meeting, because I've been going to them for 10 years. And they said that there could have been a local restaurant, a mom and pop in that area, but they would prefer to have Chipotle. And they got TIF money for that. I'll tell you another story about TIF money. There's an area called the Big Ditch. It's on West Frontage Road. Our city gave a developer, approved a plan to get TIF money to develop this ditch from a dugout area and to level it up with dirt, to box in the creek, and with the promise of getting a new dealership. Okay, that was in writing. That's part of the contract. We can state terms when we give out this money, and that didn't happen. They came back twice to ask for an extension and a third time to ask for forgiveness for the whole obligation, and they got it. Our city has been taken for a ride that needs to end. Our city is developed at this point. We don't need this incentive, and it presents a golden carrot that stalls development until that carrot is handed out. If we take that golden carrot out of the air so the developers don't see that anymore, they will take advantage of the brilliant place to build that our city is.
Thank you very much for your position on that, Mr. Croan.
You're welcome.
Mr. Cozmyer, I'll pose a question to you with you being an incumbent and being involved with a lot of this development. Kind of what is your position on using the economic development tools that the city of Mission has at their disposal?
I think pretty clearly, TIF, CID, other incentives are necessary, at least to an extent, because as the mayor said, we had that vacant Kmart sitting there on a site that no developer was willing to touch without incentives for quite some time, and that, in my opinion, is one of the premier intersections in Kansas City. Right, Shawnee Mission Parkway, I-35. There's a radio jingle about that intersection. So without incentives, we'd still have that vacant shell of a Kmart. But at the same time, incentives do need to be used, with caution, and the city needs protection with it. And I think that we have the professional staff in the city who have looked at other locations, other blighted areas that have attempted development and have failed, and they know what clauses to put in the TIFs. They know that for the Merriam Grand Marketplace, where we're getting the Trader Joe's, the developer has to hit specific milestones, or else the city is going to get the land and the money back, so that we don't have to have some sort of half-built Mission Gateway Mall type endeavor. And that's one thing that we really need to avoid as a city. It does us no good to have that there, and having essentially other cities taking pot shots about it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cozmyer.
Yeah.
You went there. I don't think anybody would want that. So I know this minute and a half's been going by very fast, so I appreciate you gentlemen's responses. But this one, after a lot of teeing up, I'm really excited to get to hear some of the responses. Councilman Cozmyer, question goes to you. What are your thoughts that needs to be done to address storm wastewater in the city of Merriam, specifically around Turkey Creek? I know you got a minute and a half, but I'm really excited to hear what you got to say.
Yeah, no, for sure. So we are currently waiting for a study from the Army Corps of Engineers. I think it's irresponsible for people to, say on Facebook, in city council meetings, in public, that the city has a plan to do something, because we don't even know what the Army Corps thinks is a good idea. We did commission a plan from HNTB to see what sort of solution could there be if we didn't build a floodway or a flood wall or a set of levees, and that's all that study was. HNTB came back and said this is what you'd have to do to solve flooding in Turkey Creek without building levees and without building a flood wall. So really, we don't have enough information right now. I think it's important that we see what the Army Corps has to offer us. I think it's important that we look at that with care and take the full cost under consideration. It's probably going to be very expensive. There may be a lot of matching funds available to Merriam, but that still has to be looked at. But something down in Turkey Creek does need to be done, just so that the businesses who are down there right now can legally do something with their businesses, whether it's expand, renovate, or redevelop.
Thank you very much. So, Mr. Croan, I'm very interested to hear your responses. You're one that's not currently an incumbent running for office. I'm curious as to your thoughts. What do you feel needs to be done to address stormwater management and more specifically around Turkey Creek as well too?
Sure. Well, my challenger has been focusing, and his administration has been focusing on downtown historic Merriam. But as we saw in July this year, not a single downtown business was damaged during that flood, or during that storm, I'll say. We did have flooding outside of the downtown district, the area that our city's not focusing on, and I think that's telling. I'm really proud that I've been involved with the Merriam Drainage District for like, what, 2-3 years? I've been going to all their meetings and listening to what they have to say. They've identified a choke point at the railroad bridge. I think it's pretty obvious, because that's where the damage happened, that is what needs to be remediated, not downtown Merriam. Yeah, I guess that's all I have on that point.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
And once again, Mayor Pape, to you, knowing that you've been sitting behind the dais and involved with a lot of this, kind of what are your thoughts and what would you like to share with regards to how you feel the stormwater needs to be managed around that area as well?
Good questions. Well, one, I would like to at least correct Mr. Croan in reference to the downtown flooding that did occur in Merriam. Yes, we had a car in another location down the Waterfall Park that was actually parked up on a fence because of the flooding. It was a whole lot higher down there, but the streets in downtown Merriam were flooded, and it did not get up 3 feet into the buildings. So he says it didn't flood, it did flood. It just did not get into the buildings in downtown. So there's a correction there. I like Councilmember Cozmyer's answers, and he's a valuable asset to our council with his background in engineering and flood management. He can address this question, and the fact that his speaking means a lot to me in reference to, we need to get the core data. We need to know what they're saying. What is the solutions? What's their answers? We have several things we put in place over the years, and that, such as some of the off-sites that are being built, there's storm water management occurring on those sites, either with on-water detention or underground reservoirs that are being put in. There are ways to keep that influx of water getting down into Turkey Creek, which also increases the chances of it flooding. We're addressing all those things right now. Councilmember Cozmyer is correct. We got to wait and see what the engineers from the Corps of Engineers say is the solution to this problem down there. And there is a problem, regardless of what Mr. Croan says.
Yeah, I think we all identify that there's a problem. It's just the approach and how each individual would look at what needs to be done to address it, I think, is what differentiates. We'll allow you to speak here shortly. I'm going to give you some time to hear in just a few seconds. So I got to ask you questions that I thought would be important to your constituents in the business community. I got to ask you questions that I created. It's one of the few times that my wife actually lets me speak, so I got to now give you your space. So what I'm going to do, we're going to start, Mr. Pape, with you, then to you, Mr. Croan, and then to you, Councilman Cozmyer, is looking forward. What 3 things or 3 initiatives do you believe is going to move the city of Merriam forward under your leadership in the next 4 years? And if you would please give details regarding each initiative that you talk about and possible funding sources if that funding needs to be earmarked for it. So, Mr. Pape, we'll start with you, sir.
Well, I think the number one thing that's facing all of us is this downtown flooding issue and what we're going to do for downtown. We've had survey after survey from our community who says they want downtown Merriam to be a destination location. It currently is not. So there are some things that we can be doing down there in order to try to make it a better place for people to actually go down. We have some great businesses, don't get me wrong. I like the businesses that are down there, and we're willing to work with them, whatever the solution might be, once we find out what we can do down there. But I think that's the number one thing facing the city is what are we going to do for downtown Merriam? Some of the other things that necessarily or that I would like to work on in my second term is the fact that we're trying to, one of the things we've been asked is improve bikeability and walkability. People want to be able to get across Shawnee Mission Parkway from the east to the west in Merriam. We've been asked that for a long time. We're actually have a committee, I have formed a committee itself that's looking at the intersections of I-35 and Shawnee Mission Parkway, I-35 and Johnson Drive, and I-35 and 67th Street. We're trying to find a better way to get all modes of transportation from east to west in our city. I think that's a big thing that we need to be working on, and that's a big project that's going to involve funding from the federal government in order to do something of that magnitude. And I guess third, and I don't know that's necessarily a problem, but it's something that I'm very passionate about, and that's the safety of our community, whether it be from having a good police department, a good fire department, and good EMS, is that if you don't have a safe community, then you really don't have a community at all.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Croan, this time I open the floor to you. Kind of what 3 priorities do you feel you would like to engage in under your leadership if you were making the city of Merriam?
Okay, I'm gonna rebut the accusation from a second ago. Speak to any downtown business owner. They were not underwater, as was stated by our current administration. It was published in the paper. They were simply not completely underwater. They were not underwater at all, as was stated. So, things I'd like to see. Lower taxes. How to fund that? Well, that's, the whole point is to be spending less money as a city. We should be a little tighter on the purse strings. We have a huge number of staff, over 200 in the city of 4 square miles. That's a bit much. Drastic firings are not going to happen under me, but as people retire, I want to see that slowly decrease in a careful way. I want to preserve Turkey Creek Trail. One of the plans that's even on the city's website right now shows berms and walls taking away our trail and destroying the scenic views that we have of Turkey Creek. That's not going to happen under me, and that'll actually save some money. That was one of the 2 plans, one of the 4 really, that they've published so far, and I think the price tag was around $150 million, so that's some savings. Government transparency is a big one. We already have AV equipment in our council chambers capable of live streaming and saving all of our meetings. I'm going to use that for all the council meetings and all the subcommittee meetings. And better communications with our city. We have a highlights magazine specifically for businesses that may be watching this. I would like to have a page every highlights episode, every issue that we put out that highlights a different industry in Merriam. We have so many, and to be able to highlight the 2 or 3 or 4 businesses in that industry would be great to share with our community.
Awesome. Thank you very much, sir. Councilman Cozmyer, to you, what 3 initiatives do you feel are looking the city down the proverbial gun barrel that you feel need to be addressed during your leadership in the next 4 years?
Yeah, I think the mayor has a really good handle on the main issues. These are things we talk about, twice a month, every month. These are things that the planning commission talks about, once a month, every month. But in general, people in Merriam really love living in Merriam, and the main thing that I want to do as a city council member is to just keep people wanting to live in Merriam. So I think, I-35 and Shawnee Mission Parkway, they're huge corridors for our city, for our entire metro area. They're important commercially, but they're really large barriers to, pedestrians, to people just trying to get from one side of the city to another. With more people moving in on the south part of Merriam, we need to have more access for pedestrians across Shawnee Mission Parkway, to get to and from Merriam Grand Station, here in the Civic Center, that sort of thing. And then, as the mayor mentioned, as part of that, I'm actually on that board looking at working with KDOT, looking at the intersections to improve traffic flow on and off, and one of my main priorities there is to improve pedestrian access across the highway. Turkey Creek flooding is an important issue. If anyone is in downtown Merriam, there's not a lot they can do, for their business, for their buildings, if that's not addressed. And then, continuing to reduce costs for residents. It's more than just.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. So we've come to the conclusion of our portion of the program where I'm asking you questions. What I'd like to do at this point in time is ask each one of you, provided you have 2 minutes, to go ahead and sum up and give any closing remarks or any reasons why you feel you are the candidate of choice. So once again, we'll go in reverse order from how we opened. We'll start with Councilman Cozmyer, then go to Challenger, Mr. Pape, you open, so you'll be the first to give closing remarks, and then Mr. Croan, you'll be the last to give closing remarks. So at this time, we'll have the closing remarks from Councilman Cozmyer.
Yeah, well, I just want to, thank you again for giving us the opportunity to meet with you, answer these questions. And I'm looking forward to continue serving Merriam. As I said, I have a lot of experience serving Merriam. I have a lot of applicable professional experience, 15 years as a professional or as an engineer. Currently, a licensed professional engineer here in Kansas, certified floodplain manager. Relevant experience to a lot of the big issues that are currently facing Merriam. Downtown flooding, traffic, construction, that sort of thing. One of my priorities is to help to continue lowering costs for Merriam residents. It's not just taxes. So we had a hearing for property taxes, whether we were going to adopt the rate that we ended up adopting or the revenue neutral rate. The difference there was about, I believe, $20 per household. But moving to a single citywide trash hauling service is saving residents in Merriam. It's saving me at least over $200. I assume those savings are pretty pretty consistent across the city, you know, based on my communication with people and how much they pay. So just continuing to listen to Merriam residents and continue being there and, you know, working hard for them.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Councilman Cozmyer. Mayor Pape will be the first to hear your closing remarks at this time, sir.
Sure, thank you. One of the things I'd like to refute, just to correct the record, is that we don't have 200 employees in Merriam. We have 125 FTEs. So you're way off based on how many people are actually in Merriam, Mr. Croan. But anyway, in closing, I'd like to say, every 3 years we have an independent company called ETC. They conduct that resident survey, and I spoke earlier about the 93% satisfaction rating. That comes from them. That's not something I just made up. We ask in that survey, what's important to you? We want to know what we're doing right and where we're missing the mark. What do we need to improve on? That's part of that survey itself. We're in the top 10% of all cities across the nation on satisfaction rating. I think it's clear that our citizens like what we're doing in Merriam. They want us to continue not only with what we're doing, but they want us to continue to provide programs that maybe they haven't even thought of yet. You know, we have numerous grants that we've provided. That we've had 13 grants now. You know, that's just phenomenal. Most cities don't have that. But part of that is keeping senior citizens in their homes, helping attract low-income residents to our community. Those what those grants are for, helping the people that need the help. I'm big on that. For 38 years, I ran into burning buildings and to save lives and property. But you know, the last 10 years, I've been protecting Merriam in a different capacity. You know, I love our city, and you know, I just can't see it going down a different path. We're on the right path right now. To move in a different direction just doesn't make sense to me. All 8 council members are backing me for re-election. Those are the people you put your trust in to run the city and to do what's best for the community. They're all backing me for re-election. I've worked with them for years. If I wasn't doing a good job, they wouldn't be doing that. I ask for your vote on November 4th.
Thank you very much, Mayor Pape. And we will hear the closing remarks from our last candidate today, Mayoral Challenger, Mr. Billy Croan. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. So the 200 comes from a spreadsheet that I got from the clerk, which does not include anyone from the fire department, any of the like 1099, the contract employees. So it's well above that. But those are just the ones that they were able to give me info on when I did an open records request. My name is Billy Croan. I have resided in the city for 11 years. I love Merriam, and I want to see it stay the beautiful, small Kansas town that it is. That is the message that I have seen on doorstep to doorstep going around our beautiful city. You know, I'm just as upset as any of my other fellow neighbors about the increased traffic and taxes in this city, the traffic congestion, because I live here. This is my only home, and I want to see it remain a great place to live. What other stuff would I like to cover? You know, I came here. When I moved into the city, I moved into an HOA. I wanted to be involved with that to keep it peaceful and productive. That got me into city business. I became a volunteer after that for city events, served on city committees. This is the culmination of 10 years of civic involvement. I'd love to see more people be involved. I'd love to see Bob stay involved after I take his place as mayor of this beautiful city. On committees or giving public comment, the more citizen involvement, the better. So yeah, it's up to you, my Merriam neighbors. I look forward to your vote on November 4th. Thank you. Bless our city.
So gentlemen, once again, thank you so much for your time today. This is going to conclude our Merriam